Hello and welcome to the LaLanne Pass It On podcast. My name is Greg Justice and I'm here with the real star of the show, Elaine, LaLanne. How are you today, Elaine?
Oh, I'm hanging in there and I feel great and you know what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about swimming and we're going to talk to three gold medals for gosh sakes.
Well, as Elaine said, we're gonna talk to Debbie Meyer. She is our special guest today, and Debbie actually became the first female swimmer to collect three individual gold medals at the same Olympic Games when she won the 200, the 400, and the 800 freestyle events in the 1968 Mexico City Olympics. She also set no fewer than 20 world records in her brief but stellar career. In 1968, she won the James E. Sullivan Award, which is the most prestigious accolade in American amateur sport, and was also named the Associated Press Athlete of the Year in 1969. In 1986, she was inducted into the U.S. Olympic Hall of Fame. So, Debbie, it is a pleasure to have you as our special guest today.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really excited about this. I have been a fan of the Lelanes, and I can remember when I was young watching them on TV. So this is a real honor for me.
Well, it's a real honor for us to have you on today, Debbie, because you've got all these gold medals and I'm a curious person, and I always like to know how did you meet, or how did you do this? So, I was a swimmer in a ballet swimmer in the Minneapolis Aqua Follies, and but I want to know. I didn't get interested into it until I was like 15 years old, 16 years old. Were you interested in it before you're 16 years old? Were you in it as a little girl or what?
I have a picture that someone took of my mom and I in the Severn River, which is outside of Annapolis. It flows into the Chesapeake Bay. I was just about a year, maybe a year and a half, and floating in the river in a little inner tube with my mom. So I've been in the water since the get-go. In fact, I was born at the Naval Academy, so I think I've got a little bit of water in my veins besides
I think
blood,
you
and a
have.
lot of chlorine too. But I learned to swim in the Severn River in Chesapeake Bay. Never took formal swimming lessons. I was underwater more than I was on top. And my mom said one day, get out from the bottom of the river and start swimming like your brother. So I just watched my older brother and started swimming, which is really strange because my mom taught swimming in the summers in between, school years. And she was a physical education and health teacher. But I started actually swimming the summer of 1960. My dad was recruited out of grad school by Campbell Soup, and we moved from Maryland up to New Jersey, and we joined a summer league club, and it was open from Memorial Day to Labor Day. And I saw some kids swimming in a race one night, and I said, "Can I do that?" And I was on the team the next day, and all I knew how to do was freestyle, and I'm not sure how well I even did that.
Oh,
So it started there.
isn't that interesting? I used to enjoy swimming. We had a junior high school. We had a swimming pool in our junior high school, and I used to love to get. I was a sprinter, and
Mm,
and I used to
that
win.
I cannot do.
And I can't
I
do
am a
the other.
distance swimmer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went when So we were in New Jersey until 1965, and my dad was transferred here, well, was transferred to Sacramento with Campbell Soup, and I started swimming at Arden Hills Swim and Tennis Club, who was owned and coached by Sherm Shavor, who happened to be the 68 and 72 Olympic coaches. And I just kept setting goals for myself. First thing was I wanted to break 30 seconds in a 50-yard freestyle, which I couldn't do before. I swam in Jersey at the Camden Y and then a summer league team, Wedgwood Swim Club, out of Haddonfield, New Jersey. And so when we got to Sacramento, I kept setting goals for myself. I almost quit after the first day because I was terrible. I couldn't keep up with anybody and I didn't have any confidence whatsoever being there. So my mom said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "I don't know, watch TV." She goes, wrong answer. So I went back the next day and just kept going and going. And in about 6 weeks, I was swimming 5,000 yards a day in that one practice. So it just kept mushrooming from there, setting goals, working to achieve them, and then reaching and resetting. And that's the key. Once you reach a goal, if you don't have something to go for after that.
Right. See, that's the key on anything in life is setting a
Oh,
goal
yes.
and approaching that goal and then making that goal and then having another goal. Small
Well, that's what
goals.
I love about sports because it's that reading, writing, arithmetic, and sports, which teaches you how to budget your time, manage your time, work with your peers, set your goals, rebound from adverse conditions or situations. And sports helps you to drive and keep pursuing what you want. And someone has said, well, what makes you do all this? And it's desire, determination, and dedication. And you've got to find something that you like, whether it be sports, politics, movies, writing, journalism, whatever. You can use those three factors. I wanted to learn how to ski because I'd never been able to. And I had asked my coach, Sherm, one time, I said, "Can I go skiing?" He goes, "No, you can't." I go, "Why?" He goes, "Because you'll break something." Well, I
Yeah.
quit swimming. A week late, 2 weeks later, I went skiing and I broke my ankle. So, he knew what was
A
going on.
visionary. Well, you mentioned something there talking about your coach, and I know I read more in your bio about your relationship with him. And I'm going to broaden this question because I think it's more than just a coach, obviously. An athlete, especially one at the highest level, like you were in the Olympics, and the importance of your support system, which would include, obviously, your coaches, your parents, the people with which you associate. Talk to us and kind of give us a sense of how all of that played into your success.
Well, I went to a VMB 612 Marine Corps reunion with my dad back in '04 with my mom and dad. And one of them asked me, "How did you do this? What drove you to be successful?" And yes, it's support of my parents monetarily. My mom giving me rub downs every night before I go to bed after practice. Making sure I slept right, I ate right, driving me to practice. I didn't have my license until I was almost 18. So, I didn't have time to take driver's ed then. And that's when it was in school, not now where you have to pay somebody to do it. But you have that support of your family. I have three brothers, two younger, one older. They had their lives as well. So my parents had to, couldn't focus everything on me because I was the only swimmer. But, I had a brother that played water polo, a brother that played baseball. My older brother was in college at the time. So, they had to balance their support as well. As teammates, we always gave each other kudos and helped each other through practices and things of that nature. Sherm, on the other hand, was a taskmaster. A lot of people called him Simon Legree. If he said jump, we said how high. And he coached very differently than other coaches, say George Haynes, who is a well-known swim coach, Peter Dalen, who coached at USC, and Doc Councilman in Indiana. They all had their own special styles. We were primarily a distance club. So we did a lot of overtraining compared to some of the other clubs, although we did have a number of sprinters on our team. But Sherm not only gave us confidence and led us to where we needed to go, but he was like a second father to me. 11 months after my dad was transferred to Sacramento, he was transferred to Modesto with Swanson Frozen Foods. So he commuted. So my dad was not around for a number of years except on weekends. And so Sherm was the second father to me. There is a book out, it's called Victory in the Pool, and it's by Bill George, and it's a story about Sherm and how he got involved in swimming and all his proteges, myself, Mike Burton, Jeff Float, Mark Spitz, things, and talked about how he coached us and how we felt about him. And he had let's see, Susie Peterson, Mike Burton, myself, and Johnny Ferris and John Nelson on the 68 team. So there were a number of us that made 68. And then Mike Burton made the 72 along with Fairbank and Dave Fairbank. And so he's had a number of Olympians, and I miss him every day. As well as my parents. And, you just want to get on the phone and say, hey, I need help doing this. What, do you have any suggestions? So I think we all feel that way with our mentors.
Sure, sure. And one thing I didn't mention in the introduction was that you were very young when you went to the Olympics. You were 16 years of age.
Yeah.
And
I started swimming competitively when I was 8, almost 8, but it was in a summer league team and then a Y team in the winter. So it was 3 months in the winter, 3 months in the summer. And it wasn't until we moved to Sacramento that I started swimming year round. And you know what? In 1964, I had no clue what the Olympics were. I got a stopwatch for Christmas, and on the back it said Debbie Meyer, December 25th, 1964, and then it said Mexico City, 1968 under it. And I asked my parents, what does that mean? Well, that's where the Olympics are. Well, what does that mean? Maybe you can get there someday. Next question was, what are the Olympics? I had no clue. And when I quit swimming and my dad left Campbell Soup and moved overseas to the Philippines with Pacific Vegetable Oil, they took everything, all the house and contents and everything, and I couldn't find my stopwatch. And years later, well, maybe about 20 years ago, we were sitting at my parents for Christmas, and he goes to my son, Colin, go get that president and the secretary and this antique secretary. So he comes out and he hands it to me, and I go like this, and I go, oh my God, where is it? Because it was the rubber cover on the stopwatch. It was a 10-second sweep on the stopwatch. And he goes, it's right up there. And so he had a plaque made. It was sitting on a hook, and underneath it said Mexico City, 1968, 3 gold, 200, 400, 800. And I had no clue where that watch was for 20 years. So that was really kind of cool.
Oh, that's exciting. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So
Yeah, I want to say
and my
something.
dad was like that.
I have to make a quip here. Do you give it all this all accolades to tomato soup?
That is the
can
only
remember-
soup I
can remember
absolutely
drinking.
love. But let me tell you, Elaine, I eat Skippy peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every day. And I
Well,
have since I was
I
a
had to
baby,
bring
let me
that
tell
up.
you.
I grew up on tomato soup, Campbell's
Oh,
tomato soup.
my favorite from the get-go, that and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Yeah, that's
I can
true.
remember in Mexico, they said, don't drink the water, don't do this, don't do that, don't eat the vegetables because they wash them in the water and all this. So when my parents came down, I said, Mom, I need some peanut butter. I need some peanut butter. So they went out and found these 2 little jars of Skippy peanut butter. And my dad was standing above the deck, up in the stands. And he goes, catch him and don't drop him. So he dropped me the bag with these 2 little tiny jars in it. I caught him. As I walked away, I dropped him in the bag. So one of the jars broke, the other didn't. So I was, very sparingly using peanut butter on my sandwiches back at the,
At
the
least
cafeteria.
you got a little more sustenance with the peanut butter than you did with
Exactly. I needed that.
oh
Uh,
my goodness.
Hey, Debbie, what you did in the 68 games, winning the 200, 400, and 800 meter gold medal, had never been done before and hadn't been done again for more than 50 years until I didn't Katie
48
Ledecky.
years. Yes.
Okay,
48 years later, Katie Ledecky did the
Ledecky.
same thing in Rio.
That's right. That's right. And then she did not do it again this past Olympics, correct?
No,
Right,
no,
right,
she didn't do it in 20 or 24. But
right.
she's a phenomenal. We
Oh,
we are friends and
yeah.
and we text back and forth. And I got to swim with her when she was in Reno a month or so ago. So that was a lot of fun and
And you're
and reminiscing. But
Yeah,
I wondered if you might want to see these. I
I
don't
would
know if you
love to
can
see
see
that.
them up
Yes,
yes. Oh
close.
wow.
those
So these are the
beautiful.
medal,
Wow.
Wow.
and the front up until I think it was the '04 games in Athens, the fronts were all pretty much the same. The back can be decided by whatever the organizing committee wants. So they're a lot different now than what they were before. They are
Yeah.
not
Are they
solid
larger
gold.
now or are they larger?
Some are larger. I think the metal is pretty much the same, and then they have a casing around it. Every
Yeah.
every organizing committee can decide what they want. Katie showed me hers, and those were huge. I thought these were heavy. Those were really
Well,
heavy.
I think those are nice
But
because they're not.
those, um, they're very special. After I won the 800 free, I gave Sherm one of my medals and I gave my folks one because without them, it wouldn't have been possible. And I kept the 200 freestyle because that was the hardest race I had ever swum in my life. I was not a sprinter, and that's a sprinter, and that was about the 5th time I'd ever swum that race. So
Wow.
that one stayed with me until Sherm passed away in 92, and I got his back. And then my parents said, just take ours,
Yeah.
show all three. And I take them whenever I talk to kids or go places and
Yeah.
things like
So
that.
Oh,
were those the three, you just swam 3 events,
I
correct?
just swam those 3 events. They did not have an 800 free relay at the time, and they did not have a 1500, which was my
Right,
favorite race.
right.
So, you know, it is what it is, and I've enjoyed every minute.
Oh,
I would not change anything at all from start to finish. And sometimes I've wondered why I didn't go on to Munich in '72. I quit in
that
January.
was gonna be my next question is
Yeah,
at the ripe old age of 19,
19.
you
Yeah,
decided to
I would have.
retire.
Yep, I would have been 20 at the Olympics, and I retired at 19. But I also swam the 400 freestyle, and I'm wondering, or 400 individual medley, and I had won nationals a couple times, but I was training mostly freestyle, and I was getting tired of that, and it just wasn't fun getting up in the morning and swimming, 6, 7,000 yards and then coming back in the afternoon and doing another 8,000. We were swimming, 7 to 10 miles a day. And
How
that
many
black line,
hours did it take you during the day?
anywhere from 4 to 5 hours a day. And as I said, we were a distance club, so we did a lot of repeat work with little rest. Like we would do 2100s with 5 seconds rest between each 100, enough to touch, get a breath, and start again. And then I would do back-to-back 3000s or 4 1500s and things like that. So we did a lot of heavy long distance training.
Jack,
And no uh land training, no dry land at all.
you know, uh, we used to go to Muscle Beach, and then and Jack would go out for a swim. He said, "I think I'll go out for a swim." So an hour later, I see out he goes into the ocean, and we don't see
Mhm.
him for an hour. So he had tremendous endurance. He trained for
Oh,
endurance, and
yep.
he could go on for hours, and that's why he could. And he visualized everything, like all his swims. I could see myself coming out of the water from the Alcatraz swim. He always said that. He says, "I see
That's the
myself."
one thing we have in common. I've gone from Alcatraz to Aquatic Park, so I've done that as well. So I know exactly what he
Yeah,
went through. So
yeah, and
that's my one connection with Jack.
he had it handcuffed, and his feet were shackled, and he was towing a
I did not
1,000-pound
do
boat.
that. So Joe Rogan, apparently, my son told me he was listening to one of his podcasts, and Joe Rogan said, "You know what? All these people they say escape from Alcatraz. If you're not in shape, you couldn't make it to land." And so my son called and he goes, "Mom, could you have if you did it right now and you weren't in shape?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I didn't think Joe Rogan knew what he was talking about."
You know, this is kind of interesting. Speaking of Alcatraz, uh, there at one point there's three guys that escaped from Alcatraz, and they found some of them with paddle boards, little wood paddles on, for their
Mhm.
hands and whatnot, and they were floating. And but there's one they found two, but they didn't find the third one. So Jack decided that he would go at the same time that these guys went into the water and escaped, and because there are three uh what do you call it, around the Alcatraz, you have to break through the tides,
The
the
tides,
three kinds of
the currents, the different
currents,
currents through there.
whatever.
Yeah.
And then so he decided he's going to do it. So we go out in this boat, and he goes into from Alcatraz. He goes in the water. Now this is at the same time, and the currents are going round and round. There's three of them there.
Mhm.
You have to break through of them. So he breaks through. Finally, it takes him a long time to break through the currents.
Mhm.
Then he swept out to sea. We had to go out in the boat and go out and pick him up and when we picked him up underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, and he had already been out into the sea. He was like, it was,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, it,
It's the currents through there. People don't believe how strong they are.
yeah.
And my uncle was a captain in the Navy, and he was being stationed over in Okuska and or Yokosuka, and so they decided to take the boat out of San Francisco, an ocean liner out, and he goes, "That was the roughest water he's ever been in." And
Oh,
he was captain of the Oklahoma City
I know
and
it well.
everything
I know
else.
it well. Yeah.
Well, when I swam, boy, it was wavy, and I'm going, I gotta keep my eye on Coit Tower. I gotta keep my eye on Coit Tower because I didn't want to get out by there. And I've swum Angel Island to Tiburon. So, but that's the extent of my Bay Area open water
Yeah.
swimming.
Well, in 49 or 48, I think Jack swam from Oakland to San Francisco.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And
Oh,
but 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 he, he proved, he said, I don't think those guys could have made it, because they found two
One
of
of them
them. The third
probably
one,
got swept out, the
yeah,
one they
swept out
couldn't
to
find,
sea.
and then a shark got him.
Yeah.
Well, you
No,
know,
I have so much admiration for all of the open water swimmers.
Yeah,
Lynn Cox especially,
yeah.
who's done swimming to Antarctica. Mm.
that's
That,
amazing. Well,
that,
Jack always talked about visualizing himself coming out of the water, the power of visualization. Now, sports psychology doesn't go back to the 1968 Olympics like they do it now.
Yeah.
But did you visualize yourself on the, talk to us about the power of visualization and how you used it.
So you're so correct, Greg. They did not have sports psychologists or, your own trainer and this, that, and the other. It was mom, dad, and your coach.
Right.
And like we had spoke about before. So prior to the 68 indoor nationals, which were held in Pittsburgh at the university, there were some times I wanted to do. I wanted to break 5 minutes in the 500 free. I wanted to do a certain time in the 200-yard freestyle. I wanted to do a certain time in the 1650. So, of course, at that time it was flower power time. So I got this mirror and decoupaged and everything else and made it into an orange flower with yellow rim in the center around the mirror. And underneath of it, I'd cut out all these numbers from magazines where I wanted to do a 152 in the 200 free. I wanted to do a 454 in the 500 free, and I wanted to do a 1659 in the 1650. Well, I would go out of the room, see those numbers. I would come back in, turn my light switch on, see those numbers. And I would think about, okay, this is what I need to do. These are the splits I need to do. So I just did that naturally. And my time was a
well,
152
that's
1 in the
that's
200 free.
visualization.
Yeah, all visualization. Boy, you're slurring my words for me. I'm trying to get those big words out. So, you know, I did all the times, all within a couple tenths, just by thinking about it constantly, what I needed to do. Sherm would tell me what I needed to do in my splits, and um, I would sit prior to a race and I'd have a towel over my head thinking about what I was going to do and touch the wall, looking up, seeing the scoreboard and seeing what my times were, or looking above the blocks because they didn't have electric timing at the time. So they would dial your times in numbers. So, I'm giving lots of information about ancient swimming in history. But yeah, so I did do my own.
Yeah, and it was a grind. I mean, it was a daily grind. One of my favorite sayings, I believe it's at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs on the wall. I think it says, not every 4 years, but every day.
Day.
Every
Oh,
And,
day.
so
and we,
true.
we only see it on TV every 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see the
Yep.
grind and the dedication and the commitment to excellence, not just
Oh
commitment, but
yeah.
commitment to excellence that goes in every single day.
Well, it's like when I give clinics to kids, I said, well, if you want to swim fast in a meet, you've got to swim fast in practice. You have to do it exactly the same way. And that's what happened to Mark Spitz in the 68 games in the 100 fly, where he was, they said he was going to win 5 gold medals at that time and or 6. And then he swam someone else's race, Doug Russell. And Doug Russell from Texas beat him in the 100 fly, and it was because Mark swam Doug's race instead of swimming his own race. And it happened to me too. It happened to me at my very first nationals, where I had a swim off in the 500 free, and one of the a bunch of other coaches, George Haynes and Peter Dalen, said, "Oh, you need to go do this because she swims like that." Well, I swam her race and not my race, and that was the last time that ever happened.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
always
Well,
swam the
that's a
way that
lesson
Sherm,
there. There's a
yeah,
lesson there for everyone because you can only be you. You're individualized and you got to believe in yourself. You got to love yourself and you got to so this is so true and just in life, you don't have to be a swimmer to do this.
exactly. And that's what I like to say when I talk to kids. Believe in yourself, do what you know is right, and you've got to make the right choices. And that's why I think sports is so important. And that's why um, I'm on the bandwagon right now to keep women's sports for women.
I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm 100% in agreement with you.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
Well,
back to one thing that you said, Elaine, talking about the lesson that you learned by not swimming somebody else's race. How old was Mark Spitz in 1968?
he was a junior or a senior in high school.
Okay,
I
so
can't
a
remember
little
which year.
older, a couple of years older than
Yeah,
you.
older than me.
Still
Yep.
very
Yep.
young. And think about the powerful lesson that he learned because he went on then in 1972 to do something that
Hmm.
no male swimmer had ever done at that.
Right.
And he swam
Well, it's
the race.
it's yes, he was swimming at Santa Clara at the time in the 68 games, and then he went to Indiana. He swam for um Doc in the winter, and then he came to Arden Hills and swam for Sherm in the summer
Mhm.
during his years in college. And he was swimming with Sherm at the games. And Sherm had to really pump him up.
Mhm.
He did very well, and then it came down to that last race, and he did not want to swim the 100 freestyle. He did not want to swim against Jerry Heidenreich. He was afraid of him, and he goes, "Oh, Sherm, my back hurts. I can't. I was, in these little bumper car things or something. I don't remember for sure." And he goes, I really can't. I'm just too sure. And Sherm just told him to knock it off. And that's Sherm. He didn't mince any words. And he put him in his place and said, "You're swimming it and you're going to win it." So, Mark needed a lot of coddling, I guess you could say.
Well, encouragement, we'll call it.
Yes. Okay. We'll say that. Yes. But,
Well,
some people need that.
they
Some
do.
people don't have a lot of confidence in themselves,
Mhm.
unfortunately. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and that's where the power of a coach comes in. I mean, they have
Yeah.
Mhm.
Are you coaching? Are you
yes.
coaching now?
I did coach. I retired from coaching in 2007, 15, I believe. I had been coaching as soon as I got out of swimming. I started coaching, but I started teaching before I got out of swimming. And in fact, I have a lesson this afternoon. So I'm still involved in swimming. I still swim minimum 3 times a week, and I'll go a mile plus a day. And then I bowl 2 or 3 times a week. We're supposed to get 2 feet of snow in the mountains this week, these next couple days. So hopefully I'll get on the slopes next week.
There you go.
And then I golf 2 to 3 times a week in the summer. So and
What's your
walk the dog a
handicap?
couple miles.
What's your handicap?
20, 20.
Yeah. I,
So I've got a
I
long
was
way to go.
I was a golfer for I took up golf when I was 35 when my son John Allen was broke 100 the day before I had him and
Oh,
so
cool.
but anyway I just took it up at that I was about 35 years old so and
Mm-hmm.
I don't play anymore because I have macular and I have a bad
Mm-hmm.
bone on bone knee but
Oh my
I
goodness.
played up until I was 94, you know.
That sounds like my aunt that was 104. She played until she was 94, 95. Yeah,
Yeah. My
absolutely
lowest
loved it.
my lowest handicap was 13. And
Oh
then
my goodness.
and then I but
Only to get that.
I hung around 16 and then toward the end I was 32.
Wow. I
You know,
started about
the
that,
older I
but I
got, the
love
worse
it.
I got.
Yeah, I love the challenge of it. I love the challenge. Same
You know
thing with
what golf
bowling.
is? Golf is you against you. You're not
Oh,
you're
yeah,
not playing against anybody but yourself. And it has to do,
it
and
is. It's all up
talk
here.
about visualization. I'll tell you just
Yes.
one quick little story about visualization. Okay, I was in this tournament, and every time this sand trap bugged me, and so I'm over on this side. My ball hit on this side of the
Mhm.
sand. Okay, I said, oh my God, I hope I don't go in the sand trap. I kept thinking about that sand trap. Guess what I did? Went in that sand
Put
trap.
in a sand trap.
Guess what I did? I went in the sand trap again. And then I said to myself, I see that ball right next to the pin. And so I hit the ball
Huh?
off. It went
Out of
right
the
up
trap.
out of the trap, right up close to the pin. I mean,
I
see,
need to do
I
that
kissed
more.
myself.
Yep. I need to do that more in golf. Bowling right now, I'm visualizing, what arrow I'm throwing over and, which way it's going to curve. And I've only been bowling a couple of years, so my neighbor got me into it. So that's been fun as well. So yeah. So my friend goes, so you're bowling for dollars? I go, I sure hope not, because I would be losing.
Well, Debbie, when you retired again at the ripe old age of 19, what did life look like then for you? What did you do from 19 until you opened your own coaching program in the 90s, right? So,
Well, yes, I actually started coaching for Sherm right after I quit swimming,
okay,
and I
okay.
thought coaching would be a piece of cake
Mhm,
because when you're in the pool looking up, it's your two eyes on your
mhm,
coach's two eyes.
mhm,
Well, that first day in the pool, it was my two eyes on like 70 eyes, and I'm going, oh my gosh, this is not quite what I thought it would be. So I did coach for Sherm for a couple of years.
mhm.
And then I coached at Stanford. And from Stanford, I started working for Speedo and did promotion and public relations from Fresno north to the Canadian border and east to the Mississippi. So I was on the road a lot. And then when I left, I started doing promotion work for the 80, 80 games with lifesavers. And then, of course, Carter said, we're not going. So I
Right.
lost that job and I wasn't working for Speedo anymore. So I started coaching with a friend of mine, Karen Moe, who was in the 76 games and 72, 76 games. So I coached with her at Berkeley. And then my ex and I moved back to the Sacramento area and I started teaching swimming there and not coaching. I helped out. He was a coach, so I helped out coaching, master's program with him and helped him on deck. And then I started coaching at Sac State. And then one year, the AD decided he didn't want a swim team anymore. It was costing too much money, which was only my salary because I raised everything else, funds for travel, and we didn't have scholarships at the time and stuff. So I opened up a swim school and had that swim school from 1992 until uh, 2017
Wow.
and
Great.
loved every minute of it. And then we moved up permanently to Tahoe to a house we had up here, my husband and I. And I started coaching a year-round team there, Truckee Tahoe swim team. So that was fun, still teaching. And then I retired from both and moved to Reno. And
Yeah.
I kept teaching, going back to Truckee and teaching every summer for, you know, a couple hours a day and helping out with their summer camps and things like that. And so then I totally retired for 2 years. And last year, a friend of mine wanted me to teach their grandkids. So I've been teaching friends' grandkids. So that's been fun. It gives me another purpose, you know,
Yes.
as my kids say, Mom, you've retired 5 times. When are you going to retire again? And it's not going to last very long.
Well, you
So,
know,
but
I
instead we have four.
don't ever retire. I'm
Yeah, I
still
can't. I've
working.
got to have a purpose, and this gives me the purpose, and it's so much fun. I've forgotten how much fun it is to see a kid accomplish something they've never
Well, you
done
know,
before.
there's a lot of kids that want to learn to swim. I wanted to learn to swim as a little girl, and they sent me over to the not the YMCA, we had the YWCA, and
I swam at Camden YWCA. Yes.
yes, and I learned to swim at the YWCA, and it was one of the most gratifying things that happened to me. And have you ever noticed that when you get out of the water, you feel so elated? I mean, I
Yes,
don't
euphoric. You really
feeling that
do.
it's a feeling that I can't explain. Can you
Yeah.
explain it?
No, it's the endomorphs that just come up and the euphoric feeling that,
It's a
oh my
euphoric
gosh, I
feeling.
really did something.
If you
Yes.
really
Yeah.
want a euphoric feeling, you should really
Yeah.
swimming
Yeah.
and then get out of the water, and then you have that feeling. It's just wonderful.
Yep. Yep. Sometimes I feel tired as
We
well.
are.
I'm going, oh, I am so out of shape. And it's just because I'm the one that, you know, people will swim, but I'm one that swims and I swim hard and I swim fast. I
Yeah.
don't ease into it like some people do. And I keep telling myself, slow down a little, Debbie, so you can do a little bit
Well,
more
honey,
and
when you
go a
get
little
my
bit
age, you will
longer.
slow down.
Yeah. No.
Going down, and I want to do this, and I can't do that. So
Uh, well, I still enjoy swimming, and if we go somewhere, it's crazy that I cannot I can't stay out of a pool, or we go to people's houses, or we go to a hotel. I'll walk to the pool and put my foot in, and my husband goes, um, "What's the temperature?"
We so much appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today and sharing your story. And what an inspiring story it is. And just we just can't thank you enough for spending a few minutes
yeah,
with us.
it's been
Oh,
fun.
well, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it. You know, doing this, it also brings back lots of memories. You know,